Everyone, happy Friday. Hope you're having a good start to the weekend. I thought I would get on here real quick and read a article for you guys about the Honda and Nissan merger. Now, initially it was reported last month, 2 months ago, that Honda and Nissan were going to essentially merge. They were going to talk about it. At first, they signed a memorandum of understanding, which for those in the business world means you're coming to essentially an understanding. It is somewhat of a contract, but it's not necessarily entirely binding in terms of locking you in. So obviously, from what I've read, and pretty clearly, Honda, the bigger car company that's in a better position in terms of their quality of their product, financially, the reputation of the company, they essentially weren't as keen about merging with Nissan for various reasons, but it seemed like the Japanese government was pushing it. So yeah, let's get into the article. Initially, I was just going to make this a long form video, but okay. So this is in Reuters. Nissan open to new partners, sources say, including Foxconn, by Maki Shiraki and Daniel Lucinik. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. If that's not how you pronounce your last name, Daniel, just shoot me an email and let me know. Okay, summary. Nissan CEO tells Honda he wants to end merger talks. Nissan open to working with others, including tech firms. Automaker also open to working with Taiwan's Foxconn. Nissan is open to working with new partners after merger talks with Honda foundered. Two people familiar with its thinking said on Thursday, with Taiwan's Foxconn seen as one candidate. Not exactly sure what that means. The struggling Japanese automaker is again at a crossroads after backing out of negotiations with bigger rival Honda to create the world's number 3 automaker, a deal that would have been the latest major change in the shifting global car industry. Nissan CEO Makoto Yoshida met with Honda counterpart Toshiro Mibe earlier on Thursday to say he wanted to end the discussions after Honda proposed making Nissan a subsidiary, according to a third person who had knowledge of the matter. Now, from Honda's perspective, that totally makes more sense because they probably realized getting into the discussions with Nissan or even just analyzing Nissan, they just make shittier cars compared to Honda. And I'm not saying that just in terms of like my own opinion. If you look at resale values of Hondas versus Nissans, I mean, they're Hondas hold their value, used Hondas hold their value way better than Nissan cars. And honestly, at work, there's a Nissan Kicks that I sometimes drive for deliveries, and everybody hates driving that car. I've never honestly been in a Nissan car and thought, hey, this is a car I would actually buy over like a similar model from another brand. So all three people declined to be identified because of the sensitivity of the topic, of course. Nissan is now open to working with new partners, including technology companies, as it looks to navigate the technological upheaval brought by electric vehicles. Software-driven cars are in new, fast-moving Chinese manufacturers, the two people familiar with its thinking said. It was also open to working with Taiwan's Foxconn, the world's largest contract electronics maker, one of them said. Foxconn, which manufactures Apple iPhones and has been seeking to expand its nascent EV contract manufacturing business, approached Nissan about a bid but was rejected by the car maker, Reuters reported in December. Now, to my understanding, I'm not sure why Reuters didn't link to that article because I believe they wrote about it, but Foxconn owning Nissan was not something that the Japanese government was comfortable with. So my understanding is that the Japanese government approached Honda and said it would be ideal if you could somehow merge with Nissan. And Honda was saying, like, yeah, we don't really want to do that, but we'll consider it for Japanese manufacturing. Now, Foxconn, if you're not aware, they have a very good reputation in terms of their manufacturing capabilities, but in terms of the way they treat employees to get things manufactured is not so good. Mainly that they have very sort of sweatshop conditions. So I don't know if that was a reason that Nissan didn't want to be bought by them. I'm sure there's some other reasons behind the scenes which aren't in this article or not even in the news that we know about. Foxconn's EV business is led by former Nissan senior executive Jun Seki, who was once seen as a contender to become the automaker's CEO before the job went to current boss Yoshida. Nissan and Honda spokespeople declined to comment on the status of their talks, repeating earlier statements that they aim to finalize a future direction by mid-February. Foxconn did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So that's Makoto Yoshida, Director, Representative, Executive Officer, President, and CEO of Nissan Motor Corporation. Holding a press conference. Growing differences. Honda and Nissan, in December, signed a memorandum of understanding discussing integration under a holding company. But the talks have been complicated by growing differences. Multiple people familiar with the matter have told Reuters, and hit a wall after Honda said it wanted to turn Nissan into a subsidiary. Yeah, I'm sure Honda was just like talking with them and was like, "Yeah, we don't want to merge with these people," because Carlos Ghosn, who used to essentially run Nissan, Renault, like kind of this like French Japanese conglomerate of automaker companies. Who there's a very crazy story behind him having to leave Japan, and, which I won't get into. But he even thought this was a terrible idea, and that guy would know. Considering that he ran Nissan, he would know better than anybody. And he said it doesn't make sense for Honda because there's just different engineering culture within Nissan that isn't going to work under Honda. A consensus was reached on Nissan's side that the talks could not proceed under that proposal, said the person with the knowledge of the matter. Yeah, I'm sure Nissan was like, I mean, we don't like that. We don't like that idea. Nissan will formalize the decision to withdraw from the MOU at a board meeting to be held before the company's third quarter earnings announcement next week, the person added. Honda's current stance is that it would not accept an integration unless Nissan agrees to become a subsidiary, Japanese public broadcaster NHK reported. Honda is Japan's second largest car market behind Toyota, and Nissan is the third largest. A scrapping of the discussions raises questions about how Nissan, which is in the middle of a turnaround plan, can ride out its latest crisis without external help. Nissan has already announced plans to cut 9,000 workers and 20% of global capacity. Nissan shares rose 7.3% on Thursday, while Honda's fell 4%, reversing the direction of their respective moves a day earlier. Honestly, stock market changes like that don't really matter too much. But Nissan having to cut 9,000 workers, which is and 20% of its global capacity is huge. I mean, that's huge. Nissan really needs to kind of think of, I think, updating some of their models, maybe pushing more into EV. They were kind of early innovator with the Nissan Leaf, which was under Carlos Ghosn. He was really smart to come out with that model early and kind of establish. Obviously, Tesla was the market innovator, but Nissan, back when they introduced the Leaf, that was a market leading position of we're going to make an EV for lower price point. I believe, maybe someone in the comments, I believe that the Nissan Leaf started like 30 grand or something, and it had a short range, and but it was a electric car that normal people could buy, essentially. So they really were innovative with the Nissan Leaf in the EV market, and now there's so many other players in those lower price points in electric cars. It's harder. So we'll see what happens, but I have a feeling that this is definitely not gonna happen. This Nissan Honda merger is not gonna happen from this. Maybe they can salvage the talks. Maybe the Japanese government will get involved. Maybe somehow Donald Trump will help Honda with these talks, because Honda has a lot of manufacturing in the United States. Most people don't realize that there's a lot of these foreign, quote unquote, foreign manufacturers have a lot of production, and they create a lot of jobs, not just from building cars, but actually having dealership networks in the U.S. So it could be, it's in a lot of people's interest, obviously, to keep dealership networks, because dealerships create so many jobs. You have the sales jobs, you have parts, you have the service, you have the finance managers. I mean, dealerships create a lot of jobs, even though I sometimes call them stealerships. But anyway, So that's just one thing I wanted to kind of discuss. If you guys have any comments, feel free to leave them below. If you have other things that you like to me to discuss, again, let me know. Just thought I'd hop on here quick. And if you could like the video or subscribe to the channel, that would be great. That helps me with the YouTube algorithm. YouTube can be very finicky, but the more subscribers you have, they seem to like that, and the more likely my videos are to show up in your feeds. So anyway, you guys have a great weekend.